Hi guys, this is a very much requested video about pronominal verbs, including reflexive and reciprocal verbs. Les verbes pronominaux. So firstly, what are pronominal verbs? Pronominal verbs are verbs whose subject, the person performing the action, and object, the person being acted upon, are the same person. So there are three types of pronominal verbs: reflexive verbs, when one acts upon oneself; reciprocal verbs, when several subjects act upon one another; and idiomatic pronominal verbs, which are verbs whose meaning changes when used with a reflexive pronoun. In this video, we'll learn about reflexive and reciprocal verbs. So how are pronominal verbs formed? Pronominal verbs are preceded by a reflexive pronoun which agrees with the subject. So first you need to make the reflexive pronoun agree with the subject, and then you need to place it immediately before the verb. Then you need to conjugate the verb as usual. For example, se laver, to get washed. When you get washed, you perform the action on yourself. So, se laver is a reflexive verb. Je me lave, I get washed. Tu te laves, you get washed. Il, elle, on se lave, he, she, one gets washed. Nous nous lavons, we get washed. Vous vous lavez, you get washed. Il, elle se lave, they get washed. So as you can see, the reflexive pronouns are me, te, se, nous, vous, ce. Which one you choose always depends on the subject. So for example, with je, you'll always use me. With tu, you'll always use te, and so on. Reciprocal verbs are formed in the same way as reflexive verbs. Because reciprocal verbs are used when several subjects act upon one another, those verbs are usually used in French when the words each other or one another would be used in English. In other words, we can say that the reflexive pronoun of a reciprocal verb translates to each other in English. Please note, many reflexive and reciprocal verbs also have a non-reflexive or non-reciprocal use. For example, je me réveille à 8 heures, I wake up at 8. Réveil is reflexive here because it is I who wakes me up. Je réveille les enfants à 8 heures, I wake the children up at 8. Réveil is non-reflexive here because it is the children that I wake up and not myself. Because this sentence is non-reflexive, we don't use a reflexive pronoun here. Also, unlike in English, when referring to parts of the body in French using pronominal verbs, possessive pronouns aren't usually used. This is because the reflexive pronoun already indicates whose hands, hair, etc. are being talked about. For example, to say I hurt my hand in French, you need to say je me suis fait mal à la main, not je me suis fait mal à ma main. So how do you form a negative sentence with a pronominal verb? As usual, you need to make the reflexive pronoun agree with the subject, and place the reflexive pronoun immediately before the verb, conjugate the verb as usual, and then to make the sentence negative, place ne immediately before the reflexive pronoun and pas or any other negative adverb after the conjugated verb or auxiliary in the case of compound tenses. For example, il ne s'est pas dépêché, he didn't hurry. Notice that the reflexive pronoun se has become s apostrophe because the following word starts with a vowel. The negative word ne has been placed immediately before the reflexive pronoun, and pas has been placed immediately after the auxiliary verb. Je ne me lève jamais tard, I never get up late. Again, ne is placed immediately before the reflexive pronoun, me, and jamais, meaning never, is placed immediately after the conjugated verb. How are pronominal verbs formed in the interrogative? When asking a question, pronominal verbs are formed as usual. However, if the question is in the positive, it's usually asked using est-ce que. For example, est-ce que tu te lèves tôt? Do you get up early? And if the question is in the negative, it's usually asked using inversion. For example, ne te couches-tu jamais tard? Don't you ever go to bed late? For those who don't know, inversion is when the subject, instead of being placed before the verb, is placed immediately after it. Pronominal verbs in compound tenses. In compound tenses, the reflexive pronoun always precedes the helping verb, not the past participle. Pronominal verbs are always used with the helping verb être in compound tenses. This means the past participle needs to agree in number and gender with the reflexive pronoun, but only if the reflexive pronoun is a direct object. In other words, in order to find out whether the past participle agrees with the reflexive pronoun, you need to work out if the reflexive pronoun is a direct or indirect object. You can do that by asking who does or did the action. The first word you get in your answer after the subject is the direct object. For example, je me suis coupé, I cut myself. Couper agrees with the subject because when I asked what did I cut, the answer was myself. So me, meaning myself, is therefore a direct object. Elle s'est fait mal, she hurt herself. Fait does not agree with the subject because when I asked what did she do, the answer was hurt herself. Mal, meaning hurt, is therefore the direct object. Pronominal verbs in dual verb constructions. A dual verb construction is a construction which has a conjugated verb such as aller, to go, or vouloir, to want, followed by an infinitive. When constructing a sentence with a pronominal verb as part of a dual verb construction, make sure to place the reflexive pronoun in front of the verb in the infinitive, not in front of the conjugated verb. And, as always, make sure the reflexive pronoun agrees with the subject. For example, je vais m'énerver, I'm going to get annoyed. Il veut se baigner dans la mer, he wants to bathe in the sea. Notice that the reflexive pronouns m' and se are placed in front of the verb in the infinitive. So here's a list of the most common reflexive verbs. S'asseoir, to sit down. Se baigner, to bathe. Se brosser, to brush. Se casser, to break. Se coiffer, to fix one's hair. Se coucher, to go to bed. Se couper, to cut oneself. Se dépêcher, to hurry. Se déshabiller, to get undressed. S'énerver, to get annoyed. Se fâcher, to get angry. S'habiller, to get dressed. S'habituer à, to get used to. S'intéresser à, to be interested in. Se laver, to get washed. Se lever, to get up. Se maquiller, to put makeup on. Se marier, to get married. Se méfier, to be wary. Se moquer de, to make fun of. Se moucher, to blow one's nose. Se peigner, to comb one's hair. Se promener, to go for a walk. Se raser, to shave oneself. Se regarder, to look at oneself. Se reposer, to rest. Se réveiller, to wake up. Se souvenir de, to remember. Se taire, to be quiet. And here's a list of the most common reciprocal verbs. S'adorer, to adore one another. S'aimer, to love one another. Se comprendre, to understand one another. Se connaître, to know one another. Se détester, to hate one another. Se dire, to tell one another. Se disputer, to argue with one another. S'écrire, to write to one another. S'embrasser, to kiss one another. Se rencontrer, to meet one another. Se sourire, to smile at one another. Se téléphoner, to call or to phone one another. Se voir, to see one another. This is the end of the video. If you liked it, subscribe, like and share. And don't forget, you can also follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Thanks for watching. Bye.